welcome again to the Actors Vow. This is Denise Moratrabat. How are you guys? I'm so excited to see you here for part 2 with Jared Dixon. But before we get to that, let me give you some updates. So this week, I don't have a Sunday Spotlight to announce. The reason for that is because Sunday Spotlight is taking a break. And I know many of you have sent your submissions and I have read them and I will get back to you. Don't worry, you will get your Sunday Spotlight if you're selected. Sunday Spotlight will be coming back in maybe a month or two. But I just needed to take a break because there's many new things coming to the Actors Vow. And, I'm managing it all myself. So it's a lot. And it's good to, take a break from that and then we'll come back to it. So also, I wanted to share with you, what did I watch this week? I started watching You on Netflix, which I think I'm late to the game. I think that was a thing a year ago, but I saw the first 2 episodes. I thought it was a very good thriller. It's catchy. You start watching it and you want to know more. It's good. So You is very entertaining. And I also really wanted to watch this week Dogtooth. I don't know if you've heard about this movie. Dogtooth is by the director, Yorgos Lanthimos. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. He is Greek. And I've heard amazing things from it. It's one of his first films. It's a very low budget film, but apparently it's amazing. He is the director of The Lobster. If you haven't seen The Lobster, please go watch The Lobster. I'm sure it's on Netflix. It's an incredible movie. It's a little bit... how do I say it? It's a little bit weird. I mean, some people would call it that, but if you're into existential questioning morals and questioning society and life kind of movies, that's a movie I think you will really like. One of my favorite movies ever. And he's also the director of The Favorite, which I'm sure you all have watched or heard about. So I will let you know. I'm gonna watch that movie this week and I will let you know next week what I thought about it. All right, so let's get straight into it. We're going to go into part 2 with Jared Dixon that we left, halfway there last week. And I love part 2 even more than part 1 because we get more in depth with not just Hamilton, but, the industry and what it means to be an actor. We're going to be talking about backstage stories, the hardest part of the show, the most emotional part of the show, and, forgetting lines on stage and the lessons he learned. And also, we're going to be talking about questioning being an actor, which I think most of us have been there and will be there at some point of our lives. Acting is a very, very hard career and there's many obstacles, and I think there's always that moment where things go so wrong that you question, am I doing the right thing? What are we doing here? So he's going to be talking about that and how he got out of that. And we're also going to be talking about auditions and why you might not be getting auditions. And I don't think it's the reason you think it is. We're also going to be talking about professional headshots, which is also a very important topic. Next to your resume, headshots are very, very important. And at the end, I'm going to be asking Jared all the questions you sent me. And he's going to be answering all your questions. So let's just get straight into it. Let's welcome back Jared Dixon to the Actors Vow. Do you have fun or memorable things that happen backstage that people might not think that happen?
During him?
Yeah.
One of the first stories that pops up in my mind is one day there was somebody who was sick in the audience, who was getting sick, and we had just finished, I forget what number is before Guns and Ships. Well, I had just come backstage and I was goofing off or whatever, and they're like, hey, just so you know, Jared, the show's gonna hold. There's somebody sick in the balcony. Just go back, relax, take your time. And I'm like, all right, great. More rest for me. Great.
Yep.
Then I'm sitting down, we're talking. I think I had been sitting for maybe a minute and a half or something like that. I'm just loose, waiting for them to give us a signal. My stage manager comes, scream the song. Then not even the song goes dun da 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 da, and I was like,
no!
I thought we were holding him. I'm all the way on the other side of the stage, so we all start scrambling, and I just ran. I was like, get out the way! I gotta get on stage.
Did you make it on time?
I made it on time. I just like ran on stage. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
tag volunteer. I like made it just in
Wow.
time, and I think I even like looked up at my MD, and he's like, hey, like
What a nightmare.
I know, but I
Oh
didn't
my
miss my
God.
entrance, so that was good.
That's good.
I'm trying to think of other. Oh, Nick Walker, who was my
Uh-huh.
predecessor, told me that I had enough time to like eat a bowl like a quick bowl of cereal between
Okay.
scenes, like during take a break or something like that.
Okay.
So I tried to do it one day, and I did. I finished the bowl, but I walked on stage. So I came back. I like changed into my new costume, or no, got out of my costume that I was changing out of. I'm in my like underwear or whatever. Ate like a quick little couple bites of cereal, and then I started putting on my next costume. I started walking on stage, and I'm like, oh man, he was right though. That was great. And I'm walking on, and I realized that I still have like
Oh,
cereal bits in my mouth.
no.
So I was like in my head, I was like, damn it, Nick. Like, and so I went on stage, and I was like, ah.
That's why I don't
Ah,
eat
Mr.
when I'm acting.
Secretary. Like trying to get the food out of my mouth.
Yeah. Oh my.
So random stuff like that. It's just always it's a good time backstage.
You still make it happen. Yeah. As we all know, you start the show, Aaron Burr. You're the first one on stage. I want to know if you have like pre-show rituals or and what like you're doing right before entering the
Mhm.
stage.
All right, so I come in half an hour. If I need to shave, I shave.
Hmm.
Then I'd spend generally like I like warm up before I get to the theater, so I don't have to do much
Okay.
when I get to the theater,
Hmm.
like
Okay.
vocally, just to get my voice
So you warm
where
up at
you know,
home.
yeah, it doesn't take much to get warmed up. So I steam for a little bit, listen to
Wait,
some
let me
music.
hold you on that. You said warm up, it doesn't take much. Do you do vocal and physical warm up?
I do just mostly a physical warm up, and I do a few like
Oh,
lip trills and stuff like that. But I try to warm up before I even get in the building, so
okay.
that like even if it's cold outside or something, all I have to do is like put some heat on my cords or whatever. I steam, do some
Uh-huh.
lip trills, and I'm ready.
Right.
Um, it's different for the morning shows, obviously, like the not the morning, the matinee shows.
Hmm.
Obviously, because there's less time to actually get warmed up. So I might come like the matinees. I try to come in around hour call, so I have time to vocally warm up.
Got it.
But the night shows half an hour, um, a little bit of steam, 5 minute physical warm up, jumping jacks, squats, burpees, jogging in place, dynamic stretches, leg swings, then some stretching before I get into my like just some like light flexibility stretching before I get
Right.
into my costume. Get my costume. I go upstairs. I talk to whoever I see in the hallway, just chat it up, whatever. Then we would all when we have a crossover, we all get together and pray before the
Mm.
shows, or like
Okay.
not pray, like sometimes we pray but we check in, whatever it is.
Okay.
you know does anybody have something they want to say? Yo, I know we're in Toronto, and I know that Grand Rapids was crazy, but I just want to say, we're all here tonight, and I'm super proud of you guys, and I just want to shout out this person for their birthday. Woo woo, like whatever. This
Okay.
person's
Yeah.
on today. Let's send them love, stuff like that. Head over to stage right. Usually I have to break out first because I'm first in the show,
Hmm.
and check in with the stage manager, and then I stand stage right, and I just try to get as silent as possible,
Hmm.
at least for 15 seconds before I walk on. I just kind of like just stare out into the abyss,
Do you
or
go through the lines at that moment? Do
no,
you? No.
no, they come to me,
Okay. Okay.
or I mean, it's gonna come to me. I rue the day that I walk out there and I don't have the first three words in my head. It should almost be a trigger. Dun, 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 dun. Like if you've
Yeah.
forgotten, the first three words. So yeah, I just try to be as silent as possible, and I just go into my little cocoon,
Hmm.
and just say thank you. I try to offer up some generosity and gratitude into my performance and into my being that
Yeah.
in my soul, and I go out there and I just give it all I got.
Is there a part of the show that's specifically difficult for you that you're like, "Ah, damn it.
Um, yeah, walking
Okay.
backwards up the steps for for the beginning of Act Two is
Okay.
very difficult, and then also keeping up the pace, like the how does the second act start? I don't remember.
um,
It's been a year.
Jefferson arrives.
Yeah, Jefferson's
So what did
arriving.
I miss? The song, yeah.
Yeah,
When you
before.
introduce Jefferson, yeah.
Yeah, I wish I could remember the lyrics. Oh my God,
Uh-huh.
I gotta do some studying. But yeah, just backing up, trying to, because it's a lot of words that you're saying in
And you're
less than,
walking backwards.
and you're walking backwards up the step. You haven't met him yet. You haven't had the
Yeah.
chance because he's been kicking ass as the ambassador to France. All that time you're walking up the steps. There
Oh,
can
okay.
promise you simply must meet Thomas. And like that, even just now, like like mimicking it, I'm like losing my breath.
All right.
But I think that's one of those things that I would have figured out had I had, you know, you pick a thing to work on every time, and I had just gotten to like, okay, I need to like make sure that I have enough breath here, and some days I nailed it, some days I didn't, but I would just be squeezing for dear life, and thinking, you simply must meet Thomas, like
To make
uh,
it.
that was one hard part, and then uh, surprisingly, not world was wide enough, but 10 dual commandments
Okay.
was pretty tough for me.
What about it?
There's just so much traffic. Like you the whole time you're winding around this around the turntable,
Yeah, it's turning, yeah.
winding in and out and trying to make sure you're hitting certain marks and stuff like that. And it
While
took
you're, yeah,
yeah,
singing.
while you're also still performing the show
Yeah,
and still rapping and still trying to connect with the people across the stage.
right.
Um, that song was pretty tough.
Hmm. Is the room where it happens very challenging? You were saying your breath, because it's very like there's a lot of movement.
Nah, it's
No?
room is actually pretty easy for me. Like I don't know, all right, I don't know if this is true for every singer or actor, but actually fast songs are easier than slower songs.
Interesting.
Because
Okay.
because slower songs take breath and sustainability. Like in order to hold a line, like you know, in order to hold line and deliver something dramatically when it's slower is a little bit
Mhm.
harder. And when something's sustained and legato, it's a little bit harder. But things that are like quippy, like Room Where It Happens, Two Virginians in it, it's really just rapping, it's just talking.
Even when it
Without
gets with like all the dancing, the
yeah,
choreography and
you don't
everything.
really sing until the end of the song, right?
Mm.
You know, you
Yeah,
sing a
yeah.
little bit before them, but it's mostly just rapping and talking.
Okay.
So it's pretty simple up until the last like the last 45 seconds of the song, like you get shot out of a cannon. Um, but
Mm.
it's such a build up that like the payoff is it's like by the time you get to the end of the song, you're already like worked up and you're just like fully.
Yeah,
I will say on the days when you're tired as hell, it is very hard to do,
I bet.
but if if, like I said, if you've gotten your rest, if you're well rested, it's fun. Like, I enjoy doing it every time.
Mhm. Okay. I'm very curious because that's more like psychology of the character, but Aaron Burr narrates the story, as we all know. And there's parts that Aaron Burr gives him Hamilton the jacket, and he like kind of drives the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I've heard Lynn talk about why he wrote it like that. But you, as Aaron Burr, how do you put the significance in all that?
I kind of see it as uh and I don't know if Lynn really sees this is just my interpretation. I'm
Yeah.
thinking this way. I actually see it as it's Burr's story.
Mm.
Even though we don't get to see we don't get to see any of Burr's life. Like Theodosia's not on stage.
Yeah.
Or maybe she is. That's like a little wink to people
Oh,
who
okay.
might know about that. Theodosia's not actually on stage. Like his daughter's not on stage. We don't meet any of his family. We're watching Hamilton's life. It's called Hamilton. But I think of it like the first question in the show: how does a bastard orphan, son of a whore and a Scotsman, dropped in the middle, become a hero and a scholar? All that stuff, and then everything after that is answering the question, and
Mm.
then we get to like how, like, let me tell you about how, like, perplexing my relationship to this man is, and how perplexing everyone else's relationship to this man is.
Mm.
And, like, just like it's Burr just laying the facts out.
Mm.
Um, and I also see it as like Burr is kind of like omnipresent in the story because witnessing kind of like witnessing it all happen again as he's
Yeah.
narrating. It's kind of like you're watching him relive. You're also watching him live it and relive it at the same time.
Mm. Okay.
Um, so it makes it like, every time they do have the moments where he's handing him his jacket or giving him paper or, those like little side moments, it's he's in both spaces. He's at the end of the show and the end when it actually happened.
Yeah.
So that's just my little tidbit. And I don't think it's meant to be played like he's some like ghostly, ghastly figure who's like spiritually connected to the show in a different way than anyone else on stage. But
Yeah.
it it feels like that when you watch it because he's just like he's almost always aware of what's happening,
It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, the way I took it is more like, he killed him and then he does regret it, right? So he's like, well, now I'm gonna tell his story.
Yeah,
But your
well,
interpretation, yeah.
I mean, in history, he didn't really ever show any remorse for doing
Mm.
it because legally, as crazy as it sounds, he did legally kill Hamilton. He wasn't assassinated,
All
you
right.
know.
But he
Died.
did lose a lot of things because of it.
Yeah, he died. I mean, he died, I forget what it's called, but something of honor, a conflict of honor, or
Yeah.
something like that what they call it.
Yeah, and he
But
lost all his money, right? And it
yeah, but
was a bad end.
the repercussions of his actions were that, he was labeled a scoundrel, he was labeled a villain in history.
Yeah.
His daughter died in a shipwreck, and all of his prized possessions that he left to her were lost in the shipwreck as well.
Wow.
His wife had died years prior.
He
Uh,
got to marry Theodosia?
he did.
Oh, I
In,
didn't
in
know.
Act Two, when we come back,
Okay.
he's married to Theodosia. Um, he marries Theodosia, and they secure the land that her husband
Hmm.
her husband had before
Yeah.
because there was British territory land and then there was American land and
Yeah, yeah,
he
yeah.
like really owned all of the United States, and so he had Grant was his name. He had his own land that she lived on, and then she was able to keep it because he died, so she was able to
Yeah.
keep it. The state was arguing that the state should have the land and that they should give it back to America, but um, uh, I was gonna say Leslie.
She kept last.
Burr actually helped her orchestrate keeping the land, and so they got married and lived on that land, and they had Theodosia, who was, um, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was Burr's first child, but she had three children prior or something like that.
Mm.
Um, they get married and then she passes away.
That makes me so happy though for him. I didn't know that it
Yeah,
worked out.
yeah.
Okay.
It's kind of like it's a bit of a reveal if you're paying attention to it during
Mm.
Theodosia, because we think he's talking about when he starts the letter, "Dear Theodosia," we think he's talking to the mom, right?
Yeah.
To his wife, because the last we left him is like he left the war, and we think he's just going back to his wife.
Mm.
Um, and he's talking about her, and he's saying what to say to you, and then he says, "You have my eyes, you have your mother's."
Yeah. No, I knew he had the daughter with her, but I
Yeah,
didn't
but
know
you,
they
you
got to
don't
be
you don't know
together.
which Theodosia he's thinking about until
Mm.
he says you have your mother's name, or
Uh-huh.
you have my eyes, you have your mother's name. And for somebody who like doesn't know the history, they're like, oh my God, like wow, they had a baby together.
Right.
And he in the show he's wearing a ring. Um,
Ah, I
so
never
that's
noticed the ring. Okay.
the only two ways you would know, and we don't reference her as his wife ever. So
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay.
yeah.
Is there a specific part of the show that always got you emotional, or a specific show day that you remember that was very emotional?
Um, so the most emotional part of the show for me is World Was Wide Enough.
Mm.
Um, I just like feel for Burr so much in that moment. And it's not about the like remorse or anything. It's just like the like how pitiful he his story becomes after killing Hamilton. How it's very sad to know that a man who had he not killed Hamilton, he would have probably been one of our presidents.
Well, he
Or
was the vice president, which,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Had he not, he was definitely in line for the presidency at some point in his career.
yeah.
But he lost everything after killing Hamilton, and um, him just being able to articulate that and say like, you know, I don't take it back. It wasn't illegal. Like we did something legal, and we, you know, our tempers flared, and you know, it just was what it was. And I think after he left the battlefield, he might not have even known how crazy his life would have gotten. I mean, there's some crazy stories that like people thought he was trying to lead an insurrection against the United States,
Mm.
um, you know, so that to make part of the United States Mexican territory or something like all kinds of like crazy
Wow.
stuff.
Okay.
He was a nomad for so long, like, you know, basically like a gypsy. Like he lived in Europe and I think Germany, and was like traveling throughout Europe and bouncing back and forth between the US and Europe.
Wow.
And you know, his daughter died and all that stuff. He remarried. He married
Hmm.
a woman named I think her name was Eliza, if I'm not Eliza
Okay.
Jamel.
That's
Yeah.
weird.
So
Okay.
anyone who knows the Jamel Mansion in New York, that was his wife's mansion. He actually lived there.
Okay.
Um, he lived there very late in his life. That was his last official residence, if I'm not
Mm.
mistaken. So
Okay.
look up the Jamel Mansion. But yeah, you know, World Was Wide Enough is like pretty emotional, and I think anyone who like has been loving Burr the entire show like will feel that, you know.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's not about remorse for like having killed Hamilton. It's like remorse for him like realizing like, oh man, I've actually done something
Mm-hmm.
that's like outside of my character, you know.
Mm.
I was driven to do this thing, and just how like how sad the entire thing is. That gets me. And then specifically like the day that Kobe passed away, having to sing Wait for It and having to sing World Was Wide Enough and Quiet Uptown were like
Mm.
some of the hardest work that I've ever done on stage, honestly. And that was a pretty tough day. So, you know, and that's what happens with any show, right? You experience something outside
Yeah.
your career, and then you bring it on stage in some way, even if you're trying to like not
You
bring it on
try
stage.
not
If
to,
it's a
but
funny show and something bad happened, it still plays in some way.
yeah.
Um, and that's just live theater, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah, of course.
Um, okay, so the show goes very fast. I was reading the other day that if it was performed at the pace of a regular Broadway show, it would be like 5, 6 hours. And
Yeah,
that's crazy, right?
yeah.
Um, how hard was it to like remember the lines? Did you forget your lines on stage ever?
Um, I mean, I wasn't in the show. I don't think I was in the show long enough to have like a line flub.
Okay.
Um, I'm trying to think if I've ever forgotten a lyric on. I don't think I did. I know
Okay.
I flipped one time. I flipped the endings of the verses and Wait for It.
Okay.
The first two verses, because they, you know, it's love doesn't discriminate between the sinners and the saints. It takes and it takes and it takes, and we keep living anyway. We rise and we fall and we break, and I was that's the second verse.
Ah,
And I was like, and if there's a reason, I'm still alive, and everyone who loves, and I'm willing to wait for it. And I went to the second verse and I
and
did
you're
it.
like,
If
oh no.
I'm still alive, and I heard Taria Campbell was our Angelica. I heard her like behind me go, "Oop."
That's
She
funny.
she came and found me. She was like, did you mess something up?"
But
Yeah,
you fixed it. You fixed it.
yeah, it wasn't too bad.
No, no, that's not too bad. I would just like imagine, like having like completely blanking on stage on Hamilton. That must be like,
Uh,
because it just continues, it keeps going.
I'm not gonna throw anybody under the bus, but if he's listening, he knows. It's happened.
Uh-oh.
It's happened to plenty of people. Like there's
Yes.
if you look up hashtag Burrs Corner, it's like all kinds of stories where random people in the show have like had line flubs or gone up on lines. Like we call it walking into the white room.
Yeah.
It's just like blank, and you're just like deer in headlights, you know?
They all have. Even Lin has. He was telling
Yeah,
the story sometime. Yeah.
yeah. I've done it in other shows, not in this one though.
Mm.
I
Okay.
don't think I ever did it in Lion King either. Like maybe a couple like word flubs or something like that, but never like a complete line drop.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just trying to keep that record going. We'll see what happens when I get back.
Yes. Knock on wood.
I know, right?
Do you listen to Hamilton on your free time? Do you go around singing it?
Yeah, fair.
You know?
Um,
Okay.
I probably am singing it at least like I sing Wait For It a lot. That's just like my walking around the house showering sometimes duty.
Okay.
Um, Sometimes I will sing random parts of the show just to check in and see that I still know them.
Okay.
Um, but not really. I've given myself space from it. I really want to get back to it whenever we do, and just like enjoy relearning it and loving it, like falling in love with it again. So I'm trying to like keep my
Mm.
distance. But I've watched the movie like 6 times. Probably watch it again after having this conversation, just to like,
I watched it yesterday. No shame.
Oh man, I'm not mad at you at all. But yeah, I haven't checked in with it too much.
Makes
I'm
sense. And
still
I think,
figuring.
after this whole year, you might
What do you
take the
say?
role. After this whole year and everything we've gone through, the pandemic, I am
Yeah.
excited to see how that shows.
Oh, the show is going to change. I mean, obviously the show won't change on the paper, but the way that it's received will change. Like the whole like Donald Trump being impeached again, the pandemic, people dying left and right. Like we've lost so many people that all
Yeah.
those songs about loss are going to hit completely different. I mean, singing Wait For It is going to be like being in my room, like for real, alone
Yeah.
singing to nobody, and like having that experience now with this like understanding of the way that the world's been in the past year is just going to be completely different and extremely visceral, and I can't wait to experience it and
Yeah.
experience it with the audience, because it's just going to be a journey. It's going to be a ride,
Yeah. It's gonna
and I
feel
get to
like
be like I get
victory,
to be
right?
first
Too.
on stage when we
Uh-huh.
come back. Like can't
Yeah.
imagine any better than that.
That sounds so exciting.
Yeah.
If you could take one thing away from being in the Hamilton cast and playing Burr, what is it?
Like a lesson or what?
Yeah, a
Okay.
lesson.
If I had to take something away, I would probably say probably like just patience and
Okay.
trusting yourself. Like, I really did learn to trust myself as a self-director. Um,
Mm,
like being able to direct myself and believing that the choices I make will play. Um,
okay.
Believing that I'm enough, I'm capable, and then just like yeah, just trust yourself. Like if you conquer Hamilton, like there's not much you can't do in theater, honestly. Like if you really
Yeah.
like understand how to do it, because it's so, like I said, it's so Shakespearean, in the way that the only way to connect to the story is to tell the story, like to use the text. You have to use the text. If you're not using the text, if you're just singing to sound pretty, it's going to be boring and flat. But if you're telling the story, you know, you if you're connecting with the actors on stage, like beautiful it's a beautiful teacher, when you let it be the
Mm,
show, and just like enjoying the ride,
mm,
I still can't believe that I get to do this show. I can't, mostly because I haven't gotten to do it for a year, but but I
right.
still can't believe that it will in the future be able to.
Yeah.
I'm just so grateful to have that opportunity.
Yeah. Right. Just like the fact that you even got cast in it. It
Seriously.
must feel like such an honor, right?
I mean, my mom used to put stuff like this to me, and I haven't really considered it in like my professional career, but it really is like millions of people who want to be in these shows, and I'm one of the 30 or 40 guys that have, whatever, how many number it is, that have played Burr,
Yeah,
have led as Burr in a show, and I'm just extremely lucky to do that, you know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, which this brings me to my next question. You said, thinking that you're enough, trusting yourself. Have you ever in your career questioned if you should be an actor?
Yeah, every day.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Wow.
um, no, the main time was right before I booked Color Purple. I actually was a couple of weeks away from quitting, and
Wow.
I had booked. I was really thinking about quitting because I just didn't feel like the opportunities um that I thought I was right for were going to come to me for
Mm,
whatever reason. I just was like down on myself. I hadn't worked a substantial job in like almost 2 years at that time, or a year and a half, something like that. And I had done some like readings, concert readings, and I did Cruel Intentions. I did Bars Workshop. I did a bunch of like developmental, stuff, and just things that weren't like long term theater gigs, or like the jobs
right.
that I was aiming at.
Yeah.
Been in for final callbacks for almost every Broadway show that you can name that I was right for,
And then you didn't
and I
get
just
it. Yeah.
it just didn't feel like it was gonna happen for whatever reason, and I was ready to quit,
Wow.
and I didn't tell anybody, but I had like made it up in my mind that I was going to. I was like, all right. In my mind, I was like, Rent was gonna be my last job, so I booked Rent, and uh, I had a final callback for. So I booked the day I booked Rent. I also auditioned for Color Purple,
Mm.
and it took um, or the day I auditioned for Rent, I did audition for Color Purple as
Okay.
well. I got the Rent gig a couple of days later, but I was still in callbacks for Color Purple, and I was feeling like it wasn't going to happen.
Mm.
And then um, I went in a few times. My agent had already told me, like, Jared, they're interested in you. You're going to be in the show, and I just did not believe it. I went in a few
Wow.
times for like after they had already decided that I was going to be in the show, and I didn't have a contract. They wanted to see me to cover Mister. They wanted to see everybody again to see if we could cover Mister. And went in for that. I then had a final callback for Lion King that didn't pan out. I had a final callback for um what's the show, Newfoundland Newfoundland, and the 9/11, Come From Away. I had a final callback for
Oh, okay.
Come From
Okay.
Away. It didn't pan out, and I was
Mm.
just like down in the dumps. And Nick Walker, actually, the guy that I ended up replacing, I had written a status online. It was like kind of like a cry for help, and it wasn't like very direct, but I think he knew, and he
Mm.
was just like, "No, you're gonna be all right. Like I know that you're gonna be all right. Like whatever you got going on over there is fine. Like it's fine. It happens to us, but you got this. I just know I know this about you. You're gonna dust yourself off and bounce back." And then
Mm.
the next day, I got a call from my agent. You booked Color Purple, and then that was kind of like a sign because mind you, I had already made up my mind. I was like, on this date, I'm gonna call my mom and tell her that Rent is my last show. And then the
Uh,
day after that, I booked Color Purple. That turned into Lion King. That turned into Hamilton. So I've been on a journey for the past three and a
wow.
half years.
What was your plan? Like, what did you want to do if it wasn't
No,
acting?
no
No
clue.
plan. Okay.
I was just gonna leave New York, like maybe go move to
Mm.
another city or something like that. I don't know if I would have given up on theater, like on acting overall. Like I might have moved, like decided to move to LA and just kind of
Uh,
like start over and try for TV and film. But I just
okay.
felt like it wasn't gonna happen. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't have any plans. I just knew I was gonna quit.
That's
Um,
so fascinating. There's so many stories of actors the day before, they quit, the day after they get
I
something.
know.
Yeah, I think it's a sign like you're supposed to do that.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta. I say it all the time. You gotta get to the bottom to like appreciate the top. And a lot of
Mm.
people just like coast in that middle and enjoy being in the middle. Oh, I'm auditioning, and that's great. It's great that you audition and have final callbacks. More power to you. Like we don't audition to just audition. We audition to do the job.
Yep.
And Some of us are not doing all the things that we need to do to get those jobs. And truthfully, like before that year, I can't say that I was doing everything that I needed to do to book any. It's not like people just weren't hiring me. I wasn't
Right.
ready. And but
Mm.
that year specifically, I knew that I had tapped into something different, and I was like, I'm ready, but it's not coming to me. And I just had to learn to be patient. And
When you say you weren't ready, in what sense you weren't ready?
I I think I've been a good actor my entire like since I started,
Okay.
but I can't say that I really like doubled down and like when it came to like performing and doing shows, I identified that I was really good at doing shows, but like auditioning was not my thing.
Mm.
But
Okay.
that's just the crux of performing. You have to audition to be able to perform. So once I really gave into the idea that like, oh, I have to learn how to audition. I have to learn to like instead of thinking I can just spend 2 and 3 hours on us on sides, I need to spend like 10 hours
Yeah,
you know, 10 to 15 hours. If I have 24 hours, I need to spend 10 of those hours working on this
that's it.
side.
Yeah.
So off book, I got my choices mapped out. I got choreography in my head. I know my perspectives. I know what story I'm telling. Like all of that stuff is extremely important, and a lot of I learned I realized that like younger actors, they think like, oh, you just walk in the room and if you're right, you get the part.
You think you read the
I
sides the
think
day before and you walk.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can look like the person who played it on Broadway. You can have the same voice. But if you don't know the material cold, if you don't have something about you that makes them want to see more,
Yeah.
it's not going to matter. Like,
Hmm.
and so I had to, like, that was a hard lesson to learn. Like, yo, you got to actually put in work. And I really did for, like, like I said, I started my Hamilton, like I said, I knew the sides, but I still sang those songs 100 times before I got to my audition the week before I went in, so that when I went in, there were no questions. It was like
Yeah,
I
he's
knew it was
ready.
like this is my job, like
Yeah.
you know. And I treated it like when I went in my audition, I didn't treat it like I was auditioning. I treated it like I was going in to perform.
Got it.
Like
Yeah.
this is my job already. Not, you
Yeah.
know, if you walk in and you act like it's your job already, you will get the job. But
Hmm.
you got to do the things that you do when you have the job, you know.
Absolutely. Make the choices. Like, don't go just, reading those sides.
Yeah, don't just go like I don't know where that comes from, and I think a lot of young actors like really believe that you can just go in a room and you sing and you sound good like and then that's it, or
Mm.
you just act well and you maybe don't sound good and you don't know the words and that's it. Like, oh, they'll see that I have potential. No, they won't.
No, no, no. They don't care about potential. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody puts money into potential. They put money into, you know, something that's gonna put butts in the seat, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you know, Beyonce doesn't have like I always reference Beyonce because I love her. Beyonce doesn't have rehearse like you shouldn't have audition, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of people don't know they're half auditioning, so that's half the battle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I love that. Absolutely.
yeah.
My next question is very random, nothing to do with Hamilton.
Mhm.
But I saw that you took your headshots with David Knowles,
Yeah,
and
love that man.
I took them too. I love
Really?
him. Fun fact, we have the same background in one of them.
Oh my God, that's so amazing. I love that.
Yeah, I loved him. And since I got the headshots with him, I've gotten so many questions, because it's so expensive. People are like, is it worth it? I wanted to hear your opinion.
Oh, I mean, yes, he is expensive, but the experience was worth it. Like I
Yes.
never so early in my career, like a lot of people would tell me, like, "Oh, you need to be like you should be a model. That'll be a good way for you to make
Mm,
side money." And I tried for a little bit, but I realized I didn't like being behind the camera to take pictures. Like I wanted to, you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Um, and I think it's just like I never worked with somebody who knew how to like get to me and get me to bring myself out and like my personality out in my pictures. And I think like just having a real conversation with him while we were shooting. I mean, he's
Yeah.
asking me like where I'm from and he's giving me like different perspectives and things to think about while we're shooting. Like
Yeah.
he's like, can you kind of just like play with your hand and imagine that somebody is like 45 feet away and I'm gonna take a couple pictures and just like kind of listen to me as I speak. And
Hmm.
he's
He
like, now
directs
imagine
you.
He's like, imagine that they're just like a hazy figure and you don't know who it is, but maybe you recognize them. And now they get a little closer and you're starting to realize that like the shape of their body looks familiar. And now they're about 20 feet away and you realize that You've seen the clothes that they're wearing before, and now they're about 15 feet away, and you recognize their face, and now they're 10 feet away from you, and
Mhm.
all the feelings that you've ever had about this person are coming
It's
back.
like, who is it? Yeah, think
It's like
about that
imagine,
person.
imagine you're in love with them. Imagine you hate them. Imagine like whatever it is.
I
Now they're
remember
5 feet,
that. Yeah.
and things like that. Like it was really like stirring something inside of me. So I think we came away with a really good shoot, and I'd give him my whatever $1,000 again or however much it was, just
Absolutely.
because it was really worth it. And yeah, if you can afford to go to David Knowles, you should.
Absolutely. When I moved to LA, I said, I don't care. Like, I'm gonna fly to New York just to get my headshots there.
I mean, it shows in his work. Like you look at other people's shots, and he just gets it. Like yeah, there's some great headshot photographers, but like when I first saw David Knowles, I was like, oh, this he's doing something different.
And you know, when a headshot is a David Knowles, you're like, oh, this is David
Hmm.
Knowles.
Yeah,
Yep.
I would even say like I would say he ushered in a different kind of headshot. Like he
Hmm.
was one of the leading. I mean, there was I know that there were two different styles of headshots like working at that time. It was like either you went to oh my god, I can't remember the name of the company, Sugar, and it's my friend's company. I don't shoot, Sugar or something.
Okay.
Um,
I never
I
heard of
never
them.
actually shot with him, and I didn't know it was this company until later, and so he'll forgive me. But um, the Sugar Company and David Knowles, they have like two different styles,
Hmm.
and David Knowles' stuff is a little more dramatic and
Yeah.
like um like centered on the face and your like just this.
Yeah. It's not
Uh,
very commercial. It's very more like, yeah,
yeah,
theatrical,
yeah,
dramatic. Yeah.
very dramatic. Like if you're shooting for Law and Order and stuff like that, or like you're really going for like those like dramatic roles, or even for theater, if you're
Yeah.
like a darker, whatever. Um, but he also brings out the light and the joy in people as well,
Yes.
really well. So I just like I remember when I started seeing his stuff, I was like, nobody has headshots like this.
Yeah.
No one else like. If anything, this will get interest. Like someone will pick up my headshot and say, "This is a great headshot. We need to bring."
Yes.
Um, and then I started to see that other photographers were using like the same style. So I don't know if he was the first or whatever, but I did know that he was like very different when I first shot
You
with
can
him.
still tell which
Yeah,
one
about
it's
3.5 years
him,
ago. Hmm.
for sure.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
still tell the difference.
Yeah.
It's just he has a unique quality about his like textures and the feel that comes
Hmm.
through his shots.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I say it all the time, but, hearing it from two people, I guess it's more
Yeah.
helpful. Yeah.
I'm so proud of like I like parade those headshots around like nobody else's
Same.
business. So I'm so proud of
Yeah.
him. He
Absolutely.
so he knows how grateful I am.
Yeah. So I asked the listeners if they had questions for you, and I have some questions from them. But
Oh,
before
great.
we get to that, I have three quick questions for you. The first
Okay.
one is give us your top three music artists.
My top three music artists or
Hmm.
musical?
No, music. Like, what music do you listen to?
Oh, okay. Somebody told me to describe my personality in artists, and I would say like J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, and Jamie Foxx.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And two dream roles.
They don't exist yet. Whatever they
Okay.
are, I've already conquered my two, Simba and Burr. So
Okay.
um,
So what is a role that hasn't been written? What does that role might look like?
um, I don't know. Honestly, I have no clue.
Okay.
I want to play like I want to play a villain again. I want to play an
Mm.
outright villain because Burr is like a
Mm.
a sympathetic villain. Um, I want to play a villain again, and I want to play a leading male who is on a journey of like self-discovery
Mm.
um, with respect to his blackness and his maybe his connection to his purpose like in the black community or something like that, but not specifically about being black. So
Okay.
yeah, I want to play something like I want to play a black man who is experiencing black life but not saying he's black.
But
Um,
that's not what it is about. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Got it. Okay.
That kind
And
of.
Yeah.
or even like if you can think of like Bobby in Company.
Okay.
Actually Bobby's one of my dream roles. I'll say that.
Hmm. Okay.
Um, like maybe like Bobby in Company, but like a 35-year-old man or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Something along those lines.
And my last one is one thing that you would change from your journey if you could go back.
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
I wouldn't change anything. Yeah, nothing.
Okay.
I'm really grateful for the journey that I've been on, and maybe 5 years ago that answer would be completely different, but I everything that's happened in my life was purposed, and I'm just I would change maybe like the amount of time we spent in this quarantine. That's probably
Yeah. I love that. I love how you didn't have to think about it. You were like, nothing.
yeah, without a question. I'm ready for the next 31 years of my life, you know.
Hmm.
I'm ready for that.
Love it. Okay, so let's go to the questions from the listeners.
Mhm.
The first question for you is, in your opinion, how can the industry be more inclusive of BIPOC actors?
Get the hell out the way.
Okay.
I don't mean that to say like, like aggressively or anything, but just like
Yeah,
really
of
get out the
course.
way. Like if you want BIPOC, performers, actors, writers to be successful, give them the opportunity and get out the way. We need autonomy to tell our stories. Anytime that I've seen it, it, it doesn't I won't speak like completely hyperbolic and say it doesn't exist at all. But this idea that we can be black on screen without being black in our stories is um is new. Like
Mm,
movies that have black people leading them that don't reference blackness in some way are new.
right.
Issa Rae's The Photograph. She's a black woman living a very black experience where
Yeah.
she doesn't know her dad. She doesn't know him well. Her mom's passed away. He lives in the South somewhere. She falls in love with this guy who's like very new in her life at the same time that, she is getting to know her dad, and but they never reference being black. You
Mm,
know what I'm saying? They never it's
mm,
not about being black. It's not their struggle. It's not the struggle. They're not going through some like existential black struggle. They're just living their black AF lives. Like you
right.
know, um and I think that's beautiful. Like,
Yeah.
and it's not an Oscar. It didn't win any Oscars, didn't get nominated for Oscars or anything like that. But it's a beautiful movie. It deserved to be told. A beautiful story that deserved to be told.
Mm,
We're finally starting to get stuff like that, and it was written by a black woman, and I believe directed by a black woman, or
mm,
a black director, if I'm not mistaken. So, well, one, I would say BIPOCs need to become gatekeepers. They need to be put in those positions, and we
absolutely.
also need to build our own gates and estates in order for us to have our own autonomy and stuff. But then the gatekeepers, like the lead film producers and directors and creators, they have to be okay with not being as hands-on with our stories as
Yes.
they have been in the past. Um, Ask the questions, but in terms of like input, you really have to allow your writers to um, explore the stories that they need to. Because as soon as you start adding your perspective, it's no longer completely our story.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and you have to trust that we given that autonomy that we can efficiently tell those
Absolutely.
stories
Yeah.
and excel. Because it's any and everything in between. There are plenty of mediocre films written by mediocre writers and
Of
directed by
course.
mediocre directors and produced by mediocre producers, and they go on to have whatever sales that they have, and nobody's taking anything away from them. They're supposed to exist as well,
Yeah.
but just give us those same opportunities. Give us
Yeah.
the opportunity to be mediocre and great. Both.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Um, the next question that I have is how, what are your tips with like when, family members or friends have doubted you in the past or yourself to keep going?
Really like re-examine your life and find think about the times that you failed before and why, and think about the times you succeeded before and why,
Mm-hmm.
and realize that there is precedent for both in your life. There's, you can both fail and succeed at any moment in your life. It's really just getting up and being ready to live. Life is both failure and success. So if you really truly like believe in something, identify the reason why you believe in it, and if you, or I say reasons why, because there's
Mm-hmm.
multiple reasons for everybody. If you can identify that, you'll never be lack for motivation. Because if it's your if it's oh, I want to make enough money to raise a family, you'll continue doing it. If you, oh, I really just feel like I like this is my purpose, you'll continue. If it's your purpose, you'll that's what you'll do.
Right.
So my tip is just, and then also ask yourself, have you done enough?
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, at that when I was ready to quit, I kept asking myself, have I done enough? Have I done it? And my answer was resoundingly yes at that time. And that's why I was on the edge, because I was like, no, I really feel like I've been throwing it out there, but the
Right.
one piece that I was missing was patience. And so
Mm-hmm.
just continue to question yourself, and don't, for all of the negative things that come into your brain, offer up some space for like positivity too. Like just
Mm-hmm.
love the process and love the journey that you're on, because someday you'll be where I am, like mentally, and just be able to be like, no, I wouldn't change anything. I'll go
Right.
through that struggle again if I had to. You
Yeah.
know, I don't want to, but if I had to, I would.
Yeah, but you understand
So
that it led you here, so it was worth it.
yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so my next question is, did you find the color purple particularly emotionally draining?
Did I find it emotionally draining? That's tough. I didn't play a role. I didn't play a role that was like extremely dynamic emotionally. Like we went,
Okay.
I mean, Celie, Suge, and Sophia really go through the ringer, and I
Yeah.
would even say Mister. They all really go through it in the show. But being in the ensemble kind of allowed me to put it down, and
Okay.
there were days when it was harder to perform the show because of whatever was going on in the world. But
Mm.
for the most part, it was just honestly, it was just a fun show for me to do. Like I enjoyed. It was my first time being in an ensemble
Uh,
as well, since my first professional show, Ragtime,
okay.
and I really just enjoyed like bringing Grady to life, and like
Okay.
like trying to treat it like a principal role, like and really just enjoying being in the background and like
Hmm.
learning. So um, it wasn't necessarily difficult. No.
Mm, yeah, those ensemble roles sometimes are like the best. I know what
Yeah.
you're saying, because like you have not the pressure of being a lead, so you can
Hmm.
play with it.
Yeah, it's really just like your responsibility in the ensemble to like breathe life into the show. Like
Yeah.
it's no pressure. You just like you have an opportunity to create the like atmosphere of the show, and it's things that people won't even, maybe like will see that you're having an effect on the story, but most of the time they won't even realize that like the joy that the ensemble brings to the show, or the pain, if you're playing pain, like
Yeah.
whatever the ensemble is bringing into the show that's going to play, it's
Hmm.
you get to be like underscoring in a cinematic film. So
Yeah.
that's really what it felt like. It felt like I was underscoring the entire show. it was
Okay.
it was fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have the last question for you,
Mhm.
and that is, if you could play any female role, what would that be?
In Hamilton or just in general?
In general. Yeah.
Ooh, that's tough. uh I got so many. If I play any female role, I'd say Jenna in Waitress.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What
I just
about it?
I just love that show, and
Okay.
I think Sarah Bareilles she should write another musical. I hope she does. I hope I can
Mm.
be in it. Maybe she should write that musical about me that I was talking about. Um,
Yeah, that would work.
right. Yeah, Jenna, just that story is so damn beautiful, and though that music, and yeah, I would love to play Jenna and Waitress.
Awesome. So where can listeners find you and your work and follow you?
Yeah, so my Instagram handle, all my handles are it's J Dixon, ITSJDIXON. You can find my music on Spotify. My most recent single is Summer Feels. And you can find a bunch of singles and things like that on Spotify as well. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Clubhouse, Facebook. I don't know if my
Awesome.
MySpace is still out there.
Is
Like,
that still a thing?
I don't think so. But I'm out
Okay.
there. You can find me, and say hello when you do.
Yeah, we'll definitely all follow you. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This was amazing. You're such a kind, down-to-earth person.
Thank you so
So
much.
thank
Thank you
you.
for having me. I appreciate this. This was fun.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm back here. I hope you enjoyed the interview. I love talking to Jared. This is the end of the interview. There's not a part three. So thank you, Jared, so much for sharing your experience with us. It was so much fun and so insightful getting to talk to you. So I hope you did your homework last week and you rewatched Hamilton or watched it for the first time. I know I did. Not for the first time. I watched it for the 100th time. Um, but I do have a play of the week for you this week. And in honor of Black History Month, we're going to be talking about Black playwrights, plays written by Black playwrights. So the play of the week this week is an Octoroon by Branden Jacobs-Jenkins. It's a contemporary play from 2014, but it's an adaptation of an old play that was called The Octoroon 2 and written by Dion Boucicault. I hope that's how it's pronounced. And it premiered in 1859. So it's a very old play. And Branden Jacobs-Jenkins just rewrote it in a very Bertolt Brecht way. And it's very hard to explain this play. It's very exploratory theater. It's a genre it's very specific. So it's something that I think you have to read and it would be very fun to explore in a scene study class. And it's a play about questioning identity and race. And I think it's a play that is very meaningful to everything that is happening nowadays. So I truly, truly recommend it. An Octoroon by Branden Jacobs-Jenkins. And this will be all for this week. This is a reminder that on Tuesdays we have Thespian Tuesdays on the Actors Vow Instagram at the Actors Vow, which I bring a guest, someone who's a specialist in the industry, whether it's theater or film. And yesterday we had Harley Yeager. He talked about voiceover and it was awesome. And it's a great opportunity for you guys to ask questions and get to connect on a deeper level. So very excited for next week. I'm going to be announcing next week's guest on this weekend, so pay attention to the Actors Vow Instagram. As always, don't forget to subscribe on iTunes if you haven't yet, and please leave a review. It's super helpful for the podcast, and I'm going to be grateful to you forever. Also follow the Actors Vow on social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. All the handles are at the Actors Vow. Thank you so much for joining me another week. I cannot wait for next week's episode. I think there's gonna be another guest. Here's the thing. I know I was saying goodbye, but I have to tell you this. I have many episodes that have been pre-recorded with guests that are amazing and I cannot wait to share. But I also miss having like a one-on-one episode with you. So let me know if you want a one-on-one episode or you want to hear from another guest. I can make that happen. So we'll see what happens next week. But anyway, I will see you next Wednesday.